Hey Kimberly, we're gonna get these tooth UVs going for you. Now it turns out that if I were to go ahead and model a tooth that looked basically just like this with all the same vertices and edge loops and everything, my UV maps might actually turn out looking different than yours, even with basically the same tooth. And the reason that is maybe when I model mine, I have my points slightly higher like this or something, or they're over here. I don't know. But basic tiny variations in the sculpting of your tooth can actually change the way that your UVs come out looking when you first make them here. So don't worry that it looks different than the book. That's actually pretty typical. But we're going to go ahead and show you how to go ahead and shape your UVs anyways. So it doesn't matter how your UVs look at the beginning, we'll be able to make them look the way we want no matter what they look like, alright? So I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks here on how to make that happen. So what I noticed you were having trouble with when you sent me the screenshots was that these edges here on your UVs are not sewing together properly, right? Okay, so we're going to take a look at that. Now, if we go to our edge mode here in our UVs, the reason that this is happening is because if I grab an edge, like say this one right here, and that edge that I'm grabbing corresponds, and you can see this on your model, it'll light up with this edge right here, okay? If I grab the edge that we've got next to it right now, it's actually an edge that's on the other side here. So even though they look like they can go together, these are actually corresponding with two different edges. So, how do we find the right one? There's always going to be another edge that goes with whatever this edge is. So there's going to be two that correspond to each other. And how do we find those? And so the way that we find out where our other edge is at, because this guy over here is not it, is when we grab that edge, it lights up orange, and also the corresponding edge is also going to light up orange for us. So if we come down here, we can actually see there's a corresponding edge right there. So this edge and this edge are essentially the same edge, and they go together. So let's go ahead, now that we've talked about that, let's go ahead and do one side of this tooth, okay? Basically we want, at the end, for this to look like a front shot and a back shot of our tooth, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and grab a face on the tooth on this front area, or actually I'm just going to grab a bunch of faces here so that we can kind of see where the UVs are that we need to put together for our tooth front shot. And as you can see there, this right here, and this unusual shape down here. So those guys are all part of this section of the tooth that I have highlighted here. So first thing we're going to want to do is isolate all these guys from the rest of all our UVs that are going to be down here. So if I unselect this, just put it back in object mode here, and we can see everything. And so we only want this guy, and these right down here. So let's go ahead and move some stuff around and get going. So to move some stuff really easily, what we can do is go ahead and grab a UV and hold down Shift and then hit the greater than button. And what that's going to do is select all the UVs on that same piece that are next to the UV that you have selected. When you hit it again, it's going to select all the UVs that are next to those UVs. And hit it again, hit it again, hit it again, hit it a bunch of times. Eventually, you'll get the entire piece all selected, okay? And nothing around it on accident. So we can move that guy out of the way because we don't want him for now. We'll use that shift greater than technique to grab these. Move this piece out of the way. Okay. So, we know we want this section of pieces right down here, right? You know, they're shaped pretty weird, but we'll fix the shaping and everything. What we don't want is all these UVs that are kind of around them and stuck to them. So we're gonna get rid of those guys. And the way we're gonna do that is using the cut tool. So we're gonna go to edge mode and grab any edges where these pieces that we want are connecting to these extra pieces that we don't want, okay? So that's gonna be right across here and right across here. And we're just gonna hit the cut tool, which is these little scissors right here. And, okay, now it doesn't look like anything has happened, but these pieces are now separate from these guys all around them. So, the way that we can go ahead and move that is just, again, grabbing one of these UVs on our piece that we want, holding shift and greater than, greater than, greater than. And then now we've got that piece, and we can see when we move it, it's totally separate from those guys that it was connected to before. So we're gonna take it up here, and you know, you can do anything with these. You can scale them and rotate them and whatever you want. I'm using hotkeys now, which are W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale. But you can do it the old-fashioned way as well by just selecting them over here, okay? So you just kind of want to move that into place. And you'll want these guys to be really pretty close together, so that when you do sew them, you don't have things kind of jumping really far. You just want them to kind of already be where you want them to be. So I'm just gonna kind of move those really close to their partners there. Now, you'll want to go ahead and double check this again. Once you've got everything kind of in place, go to edge, grab that edge, and the one next to it should light up. And if they're both lit up, that means you've got the correct edges here. So we're just gonna grab those guys all along here. And once we're happy with that, we're gonna go ahead and hit the sew button, which is this little needle guy right here, and sew them together. Now that we've done that, these UVs and edges are all connected now. Okay, so we'll just come over here and do the same thing with this side. Again, double check and make sure both sides of these edges are lighting up. And we'll sew them together. And now what we have sewn together here is that entire front side of the tooth. So we'll show you that right here. We'll just grab those faces again. Hey, and there it is. Yay! Okay, so one last problem here is that, yeah, you know, it's all sewn together. It's the front side of the tooth. It doesn't really look quite the same as this. You know, this is kind of tall and thin, and this is all long and squished. So we don't want that. We want this to look basically like a snapshot of what we're seeing over here. So to do that, just grab your piece here, and you can just, you know, marquee select it, or you can use the shift greater than technique, and we'll just scale it. We can scale it, we can shape it, so you know, now it's kind of wonky, so we can bring up these UVs here, and you know, this is just kind of an eyeballing thing, where you can just sort of shape this as much as possible to look something like what you're seeing over here, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more accurate you get this, the easier time you're going to have painting later. So I recommend taking a lot of care doing this, probably a lot more care than what you're seeing me do right now. But yeah, something like that, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, that that kind of looks like our tooth, something like that. Kind of looks like this, and basically you're just gonna continue that process of finding edges that you need and cutting them away and sewing them back together in different places. And it doesn't matter if you cut everything all apart and it's, you know, there's pieces over here and pieces over there and they're all over the place, because you can always sew them right back together again once you figure out where you want them to be. So now that we've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the top part of this side of the tooth and connect it all together, okay, so you can see that as well. And then, you know, once you got that done, the other side should be just a wash, rinse, and repeat. So, okay, so we're gonna grab those faces that we need. We haven't done these guys yet, right? These ones on the top here, the gum line. So we're gonna grab them over here so we can see which ones we want to be working with. Don't forget these little guys on the top. Alright, so we want those. We'll just zoom out here so we can see. Okay, so, you know, right away, this looks a lot more crazy. This doesn't look anything like that, right? But we're gonna make it look like that. So let's go ahead and go back to object mode so we can see everything. We know we want to grab these guys right here, but not those. So we'll just come in here, and it might not look like it because it's a straight line, but there's actually two edges right here. So just kind of zoom in, you know, and double check and make sure that you've got everything that you want. Grab that little extra guy. And cut. And we'll just UV, grab one of those UVs, shift greater than, and move that over. And we can just, you know, we can just take it over here to this gray area and we can work with it there, that's fine. Just to give us a space to work in. Cut that one. Grab a UV, shift greater than, move that over. Same thing here. Again, there's this little extra edge. It's corresponding to this little guy right here. Okay, so make sure you grab that as well. Cut. Grab the UVs. Shift greater than. Just move it over here so we can work with it in an open space. And this, so we grab this one on this side, and it's also connected over here, so don't forget that one. Cut. UVs, shift greater than. And move that over. Okay. So now we have all these wonky pieces, and they look super crazy, and nothing like what we want. So how do we tell, you know, what goes where and how it is supposed to look and everything? One way to do that is to start grabbing edges and see what they correspond with here on our model and try and shape them accordingly. It's going to be a little difficult sometimes. The best method, I think, for us right now is because we know that all these top UVs are connected to these ones that we've already nicely shaped, all pretty and nice over here. We'll start working off of what we already have and what we already know. So we'll shape these guys based on the shape that we already have here. Okay? So we'll grab these top UVs, alright, these top edges, excuse me, on our UV editor right here, and find out what do they correspond with? Well, they correspond with these guys right here. Okay? So, we're gonna grab these guys and move them over. Make sure you rotate them around the correct direction. So we know that if we grab these edges, this edge right here needs to line up with this edge right there. So let's do that. Let's just grab some UVs and start lining them up. We'll take this guy over here, take that one, so that that edge is kind of matching up the way we want it to, okay? And then this, of course, is going to be the next one. If we go to edge, you can see those two need to go together. Sorry, that's a car driving by. So we'll just grab that guy and pull it right down there so that those guys are close. Grab this next one, pull it down. Next one over here, pull it down. You know, that's great. This looks crazy up here. So for that, we're just gonna pull these down closer. Again, you can just look at your reference and see how this is shaped and kind of go off of that as far as, you know, how far apart should these be spaced, you know, what kind of shape should they be in, and just kind of pull them down and into place, something like that. Alright, so now we got kind of a pretty good shape going on there, and the last step here is to just start sewing these guys together. So we'll grab all those edges. Again, double check and make sure those borders are lighting up so that you know you got everything going the right way, both sides. And sew. So after that, we're going to be dealing with these guys up here, these bigger faces. So let's find them first. We'll grab these edges and see what's lighting up over here. Alright, so we've got these two, that one over there, and this over here. So, you know, you might be like, well, that doesn't look anything like that, and I don't know what to do with that. The best approach when you got something like this going on is to just kind of go one at a time. So, let's say, you know, grab this piece right here. And what does that go with? Well, if we take a look, it goes with this guy right over here. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and grab that one, rotate it around, pull it up here, and you can, you know, you can scale it or you can just move the UVs into place. It just kind of depends on what your style is. I'm just going to move them. I think it'll be a little faster, I don't know. Now you got to remember when you're looking at this face right here, it corresponds with this face on your model. So it's a little bit taller comparatively to the ones below it. So you'll want to reflect that here when you're doing your shaping, okay? You just want to make it a little taller than the others that are beneath it. Okay, so there's that one. And now that it's in the right place, we can go ahead and sew it, okay? Just sew it right on there. And then we'll grab another one of these guys and say, alright, where does this one go? Well, it goes right there where that orange line is. So we'll grab it, pull it on over here, rotate it around, scale it, sorry, that's a frog noise in the background there. I don't know if you can hear that. It's pretty loud. Get a lot of frogs out here. Okay. So we'll just move these guys into place. And you know, this guy right here is corresponding with that. So it should be about the same size as that one. Should be pretty much like a mirror image. So we're gonna try and make that look pretty similar. It doesn't matter where I put this top one for now, because we're not dealing with that guy yet. So just, you know, do whatever you want with that. You know, looks about like that. Yep, pretty good. Something like that, okay? Let's sew that together. Good. Okay, so next we've got these middle two guys. So we can see that's corresponding with those two right there. Alright, so this one goes with that one. And this one goes with that one. So we can just grab all of those and move them into place over here. Scale them so that they fit in there pretty nice. And again, you're not really dealing with the top yet, so don't worry about these top guys. We're just kind of focusing on this connection right here. So we can just grab those and put them close to where we want them. Now, not only are they connecting right here, but they should also be connecting to these guys on the sides, okay? So you'll also want to move these so that those can connect together, alright? So move all of those close to each other, and we'll grab those edges, make sure both sides of the borders are lining up. Hit sew. Okay. Just remember to keep, you know, always shaping this and making sure it looks, you know, at least something like our tooth over here, right? So, you know, what's the story with these top ones here? Well, these guys are going to be right above those guys. We know these guys are these ones, so those guys must be these ones right here on the top, okay? So, no surprises here. We'll just want to shape this stuff so that it looks something like what we're seeing right there. Alright? Something like that, maybe. Shape those. You know, you can just kind of move that stuff out of the way for a second so we can see what we're doing. Alright, yeah, something like that. And then you've got these. This right here and this right here, which are these weird little corner guys, okay? So, for those guys, what I would do is probably just bring that down to connect right here, okay? And kind of, you know, you want to keep the shape as much as possible, but obviously if we're looking at this from the front, it makes it just a flat space. And we don't want a flat space when we're painting. We want something more that looks kind of like this little triangle, alright? So we'll just move some things around so that we have something that we can actually paint on here, alright? That, you know, maybe kind of looks like a triangle, but we want to be able to paint something there. Now, as we're moving this kind of over this way, we're really stretching out these faces in the center here. You know, we don't really want to stretch them out too much. So, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make a little cut right there, okay? And move some of these over a little bit so that we can still have everything flat, but without stretching these faces really far, okay? So let's finish moving these guys kind of into place, making them look something like they look on our tooth, alright? Once we have them close to their edges, don't forget to sew them together. So you want to sew that little part right there. Boop. And you'll want to sew that. Boop. Alright, so to avoid that stretching, you know, technically you could leave it like this and it'd probably be fine for a shark tooth. But just for the sake of practice, we're going to go ahead and keep this from stretching. So we'll grab these two edges right here in the center, okay? And we'll make a seam down those, okay? Actually, let's just grab 3 edges. Let's just go for it, because that's going to be the entire gum, okay? And we'll just hit cut. And then you'll want to grab these UVs and kind of separate them from each other so that you still have kind of the tooth shape, but you're just not stretching it quite as far as it was stretched before, because these guys were stretched pretty far away from what they were originally sort of meant to be, okay? So we'll just kind of take those over there. And so now what we have is kind of a flattened out version of our tooth, alright? Actually, I like those two together. So, you know, if you decide you want something to look a little different, you can always just keep sewing and cutting and sewing and cutting, however you want it to be. Just as long as it looks something like this in the end, that's going to be what you're going to want to paint on, a nice flat tooth-shaped surface so that you can tell what you're painting and where you're painting, and so that you don't have your paint kind of stretching really far, squishing up. Okay? So, I think now that we've done one side of the tooth here together, you can probably get that other side on your own. And so I hope that helped. Please let me know if you have any other questions or anything about any of this UV stuff. I'd be happy to help. And happy modeling. Thanks.